Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming back to my studio. In this video, I'd like to share with you how to draw a Trullo house in perspective. I have visited in southeast Italy, in the region of Puglia, the city of Arbello and the province of Bari, with high density of Trulli houses. I happened to live in one of the villa, and that was back in 2020 when the first lockdown was taken off, and I managed to get like the cheap deal. Check the video, I got some from there. I'm going to share with you how to draw detail of these buildings, detail of the stones built out of a dry stone with conical roof. And I believe that it was built for the small proprietors or agricultural laborers during the golden age of the 19th century for the growing wines. And also some theory that says the Trullo houses were built out of these dry stones because they're scared of taxation. So when the arrival of those authorities to collect taxes, so the building actually easy to dismantle. That was just the myth. I'm not sure that it's true or not. But anyway, in this video, I like to share with you how to draw a Trullo house in perspective using geometry lines without the vanishing point monolithic structure. I hope you watch to the end to understand how this building works. Hello everyone. Thank you for coming back to my studio. To those new, thank you for stopping by. And in this video, I'd like to share with you how to draw the Trullo house in perspective using the geometry line. This is a Trullo house, a monolithic construction. One of the vernacular architecture that are mainly in Bari, the southeast regions of Italy, which I have visited during 2020 during the pandemic time. A very fascinating kind of a building, dwelling house made of dry stone. Very small, with its iconic conical form of roof, round conical roof made of dry stone. The building entirely made of stones with thick wall. So in this video, I like to share how to draw this Trullo house in perspective without the vanishing point by using the geometry line. Started with a cubic shapes, views, the elevation, side elevation views. I then create using the observation to find the center point, and also crossing the line below and above instead of on the side facade to find the center point, and also the center as I'm doing right now. So then project that where the line cross each other, that will be the center point. Then I extrude that vertical line from above to below. Now the next one is to find the side center of this facade on each side. The reason is I like to make sure that the center line that I started from the center will be approximately aligned with the side elevation, side face of this building, so that I don't have to draw the set to find the center point from the at the back of this elevation. Although it is hidden, usually I try to find them just a reference, but because it's such a small drawing, I try to make my drawing as clean as possible without overlay over multiple lines. But simply find the center point of each facade. I then draw the line that connected to the center of the line, just so that by having the continuation of that line from the side to the back, going through the center of the point, that would be the end of that. Once it reached the other side of it, or on the side of the rear side elevation, that would be roughly the center point, like that. So that I don't have to do the diagonal line to find where the center point are on that side elevation. Now I got these vertical lines to indicate the center point of each of the facade. I then do the another cubic square line in between, by simply connecting that center of these lines on the facade to another. The reason is I'm going to create this round shapes at the footing on the roof that will be projected to the top of the cubic shape to create a conical form of roof hut, like that. So by having that line as a starting point, the cubic square line, that will be to make my drawing the conical footing on top of that flat roof roughly in proportion for these perspective drawings. The next one is to create another center point on the cubic structure of this building below, right, that where the main building is, by creating drawing the horizontal lines, starting point with the center point, and divide them again to center points, like this. Again, the reason is because this drawing has no vanishing points, so the vanishing point is derived from within itself. And again, in this one, I do not have to divide them to 3 or 4 as my previous drawing. This is purely using the eye measurement, approximately where I'm going to allocate the opening into this building. You're doing a arch kind of a structure for the opening, and another small opening on the side for the windows opening, pretty symmetrical, but in terms of opening, in reality everything were handmade, so nothing really exact in terms of shape and size. And another one here is another opening to doors opening to get into this monolithic structure. And another window opening on the side, very narrow, very small. Because the nature of the window is so small, it doesn't need the arch form of structure to hold the weight from above. Simply using a small big lintel stone, because such a small opening for the windows, so it could be just square. Right, now that I've done the roughly the guideline on the main buildings, now the next one is to indicate the lines of this conical shaped roof, simply using the find the center point with this cubic shape that I did at first of this drawing as the guideline, roughly where they are in terms of the line front, side and the back. But of course, again, starting with the divide them into half first, and once I first find the second half, I divide them again, but slightly curvy shape. When I've done that, it's quite easy to just follow that. Again, center point and the back there, the front and the back again, and of course the technique continue, repeat to make this part of this conical roof much more dense. These lines will be the reference to accentuate the perspective views. At the same time will be the guideline for the material details of this roofing. Now that I've done that on the roof part, I'm going to add more layer of these lines on the buildings itself by skipping through the opening to make the opening windows, the doors look much clearer, and also to differentiate between the opening and the building wall. What I understood about the Trullo house was it was made of dry stone. The outside are made of dry stone, and the interior inside again made of limestone. The two different layers, and the building, the wall are really thick. I was there when I went to visit, and I rented in one of the villa, really small inside. And the reason why the wall are so thick, at least about over a meter each, it is because of the nature. One is the structure. There was no reinforcement. One of the ancient construction, monolithic, to sustain the weight from the roof above the arches. At the same time, it is also for climatic purposes. Believe that in winter, these stones are thermomass, so it retain heat. And at the same time, in winter, Puglia could be extremely hot in the summer. So having the thick wall, it cool the temperature down in the summer and keep the house warm in winter. Now, I'm adding the detail of these stones on the walling and a bit of detail on the stone on the arches, and purposely doing this horizontal line as a guide references for the perspective. But in reality, each of these stones are identical to one another. The completely different size and shape. So using hand drawing is almost imitating the reality, naturally imitating the reality of the nature of each piece of this stone on the construction. Can't really drawing this in a CAD drawings. The hand drawing is the best to achieve close proximity into the detail of this drawing in terms of material construction of this Trullo house. But using this line that I did at first as a perspective guidelines, and having this stone that are piled on top of each other on the facade, despite they are having different size to each other. By having this line drawing, it also differentiates the close views and the far views as reflect the perspective drawing, reflect the vanishing points without the vanishing point, simply using the geometry lines. Now again, another indicate a bit of linter there on the opening. The good thing about this drawing exercise is I don't draw it on site where I was there. I draw it by the deep understanding of the building study I did myself. And please do check one of my previous drawings, which indicating the construction detail of this Trullo house, which I did a couple of years back and still available, and indicating the drawing section, floor plans, the interior layout basically. And in this video, it's more of to extend my understanding of the building in perspective views of the building itself, without the good thing about drawing like this is give me the opportunity to understand how the building works in terms of structure, material, and so on, without just simply sitting down on site and draw how the building looks like by purely or merely surely just to perfect or practice my perspective drawings, which I believe is not good enough to study about the building. I like to understand more, not just practicing the perspective drawings and how the building looks, but more of the understanding of how the building actually functioned, built in terms of structure, material, and of course using different techniques to achieve perspective drawing, rather than using the orthodox way of draw certain things, certain building for the perspective drawing with the old vanishing point. And some building are perspective drawing, vanishing point are no relevant or could make drawing actually harder for certain project or certain drawings, certain buildings, as Trullo house is not closer by and purely all handmade, nothing perfect in terms of vertical line, horizontal line. It's simply because of the nature of the material itself. Stones, they are identical to each other, all handmade, all crafted, handmade at a time. Now the next stage is I'm going to start with the dark side of it, the darker lines indicating the opening of these windows and doors, starting with hatch, the vertical line hatch. And again, in this video, I like to assume that the light coming from the left side, just to make it each one of my drawing consistent, where the light coming from the left, and that therefore the dark side, enclosed side, will be on the right, indicating the shadow of this building, the cutting through the opening, and repeat on this side too here. Again, I like to start with a simple one vertical line, repeat the same techniques, and I will be hatch more again after, but to start with I like to do like the first layer and look back and add more layer like this to make it much darker. Again, repeat the same second layer on this side. Simply many reasons for that. I don't want to break my pen nib. At the same time, I don't want to distort my drawings. Right, the next is to add more detail, to draw each one of the stones on the roofing. This is not assumption, this is based on what is actually there. I was there, I saw it, I touched it, I feel the stone, how they were constructed, layer and overlayer on top of each other, and the gap of each one are really visible, very clear. Unlike the interior, there are different layers and they're made of stone, limestone, and the color is like creamy, and the outside is darker gray. You see how easy it is by having the initial line that I did, and I simply adding the detail of this stone material, roof material, in between those lines that I did at the first. You see, directly indicating the perspective line with the perspective views without the vanishing points. Of course, the next step is to add the shadow under this roof, under the eave of this roof material, and of course the finishing on top of that conical roof, kind of the shape looks like, remind me of when I play bowling. Imagine the bowling that you hit in the bowling, playing bowling, put on top of that conical roof of this Trullo house. That's exactly how it looks. Right, now then I'm going to add more detail on this stone. Usually the big gap in between. So what I'm trying to do here is to add more lines in between of the stone to make it much darker, just to emphasize on the roughness of this material. Of course, the modern days, this building have been upgraded, retrofitted with rendered wall, but the reality, the original building, which I am like to share here, is to tell the truth, the honesty of the building structure, so that it's easy to understand. And I'm not going to indicate the rough rendering on the wall, but indicating the actual material of this building property. Now the next one is I'm going to add the diagonal basic cross hatch, to add another layer on the hatch to make my lines darker, to accentuate that windows opening, the small window opening, before continue. And of course adding more detail on each one just to adjust my drawing. This is the final, almost the final stage of this drawing, basically, to add as much information as I needed. Basically, I started with the cubic shape, and of course adding more to keep this external walling slightly in diagonal, assuming it's kind of a retaining wall. So instead of 90-degree vertical line, put a bit more diagonal shape to imitate the reality of this building structure, with thicker walling, a rough stone out on the outside, on the outer layer, which is completely different to the inner layer, the interior layer of the wall, which is much more refined compared to the outside. And detail on that cutting through the opening, and again much darker there underneath the roof. Right, again back to that opening to make it much darker, and of course it has to be consistent with the roofing as well. These dry stones on the roof, you can see the shadow because they're so deep and big gap in between. So what I'm doing here is to indicate what is actually happening there on the roof. The big gap, big shadow overlapping on top of each other. Right, now that I have the information I need, of course the next one is to hatch this side of the wall, so it just slightly enclosed, and the left is much exposed to the lighting. So in that sense, I have to make darker on this side of the wall. And I'm going to start with the vertical hatch first. Vertical line to hatch it. First layer. And again the second layer. I think I'm going to adjust the roofing as well, so to make it slightly round and curvy above, rather than just straight lines, just to imitate what actually there. A bit more detail there. Just sticking out from both. Again, this will be the hatching again, the third layer, but this time will be the cross hatch line, the third layer to overlap the vertical second layers of my second hatch, so to make it much darker on this side. And of course I need to be more consistent hatch there as well on the roof. And the roof I'm going to hatch is basically imitate the shape of that roof. A bit more detail on there to fill the gap. Hatch on this side too, so it's not just blank, to give a bit of the dirt on that material, this stone material, rather than just blank white, to balance that thicker line edge tones, so the contrast is not too obvious, but just to keep the contrast between the light exposed and enclosed between the side of the wall. So thank you very much. This is my Trullo house in perspective drawing without the vanishing point, using the geometry line. Thank you for watching.